Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 633. One thing I can say right off the bat, since I've been doing coverage of the U.S. Chess Championship recently, is that this is the kind of game you would never see at the U.S. Chess Championship. But it was a fun game anyway, so let's check it out. I start off with e4. My opponent plays e5, knight f3, knight c6. So far you might see this. And d4. The Scotch game has come in and out of favor in the past 30 years. It's not played so often at the top levels. It was kind of revived by Kasparov for a while, but I don't see it so much anymore. E takes d4, and then this next move, bishop to c4, the Scotch gambit. This hasn't been played at the top level in a long time, although I'm not entirely sure why. I think actually this is still good for white. So it's an interesting gambit if you like to play a gambit where you're not giving the advantage to your opponent by playing the gambit, then yeah, this is a good one to check out. Let's see. And he went with the very rare move h6. Just briefly, the two main moves here are knight f6 and bishop c5. In practice, bishop c5 is the move that I've seen the most. Knight f6 leads to some very sharp lines. Knight f6, castles, or e5. I think e5 is a more challenging move. e5, d5, and you get this kind of stuff where you're attacking his knight, he's attacking your bishop. It's better not to take in this case, but to just play the bishop to b5, force his knight to move. And then you get a bunch of crazy stuff here with pins along the files here. So knight takes d4, bishop to d7. Well, maybe this is not so bad. Actually, I was thinking of a different line. Bishop takes, and then pawn takes. You get to damage his pawn structure here, and you have this advanced pawn. I think you've, yeah, this is no longer a gambit at this point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, both sides have 7 pawns. He castles. So that's one line. And the other one is bishop to c5. Of course, there are many variations there. It gets complicated. But just to give you an idea, and here's a place where you can cancel. Yeah, I guess that's the other line I was thinking of. In the other line, you can also castle and just let him take the pawn, which is interesting. And here you have a choice of castling or playing c3 to continue with the gambit. Let's see, castling, knight f6, and e5 here. Also c3 is interesting here as well. And d6, just ignoring things, or knight takes e4. If knight takes e4, this gets into a very tactical line because you've got this pin on the knight potentially along this file, but you can throw in c takes d4, kick the bishop back, and then pin the knight this way. So anyway, interesting stuff going on here. But let's get back to the game. I just wanted to point out that h6 here is a very rare move. Let's see, and after that we are just pretty much out of the opening book. h6, castles, pretty logical move here, and bishop c5. So now he defends the pawn, but he's kind of a tempo behind in those other lines. So actually white's doing really well in this position. I play c3 to offer a gambit, and actually this is already there's some interesting tactics here, so I'll show you some typical kind of tactics. If he takes the pawn, b takes c3, you don't take back right away, but you throw in this bishop takes f7 check, and when the king takes, the queen comes out here with check. And so you're getting your piece back, as well as you've disrupted his development. And let's see, if he goes to f8, you can take the bishop with check and grab the pawn here, and you're up material, and you've destroyed his castling rights, and you've got better development, so you're in great shape. If he goes to e8, probably the main move, then you still take the bishop. Got to get that material back, and if he continues to grab material, you come in here and allow that, and you take back with the bishop, and you've got some great attacking ideas with all your pieces being active, except for the knight and the rook. You need to get those into the game, but even with the pieces you have out, you have some dangerous ideas. So might continue like this. And remember, he can't castle in any case because he's already moved his king once. And knight to h4, hopping into here and threatening fork and picking up the rook. So you got a lot of pressure, and And if things slow down over here, you can still develop this knight and bring the other rook into the game too. So anyway, good position for white. So at this point, black declined. Oh, let me back up. There's one more point I wanted to make here. If you look at the opening book at this point after bishop to c4, the third move here, d6, this is when I play as black if I want to just decline the gambit. White's still better, but sometimes as black you don't want to face this crazy gambit. And you know, at this point white has nothing great here other than just taking back, and you know, you can continue developing. Probably shouldn't worry too much about him taking the knight over here and messing up your pawns. But the point is, in this line, black at least manages to complete his development and gets a normal game. So if you want to avoid some of those tactical lines, I mean, these are certainly playable, the top two choices for black, but you can avoid them by playing d6 here. Anyway, but h6 is not a great way to avoid this. So let's get back to where we were. We're up here, and he played d6 at this point, so he didn't take the pawn and allow that stuff. So now I just take back. And this is what happens when black declines the gambit. When black declines the gambit, then white typically gets this big center. And this is an advantage for white. Although, let's see, well, knight c3 is good. And knight f6. It's right here. I need to play something other than bishop f4. Actually, what the move I need to play is h3. You can tell by the course of the game that at this point white has a big advantage, but after my next move, bishop f4, it's equal. And the reason is that he's got this move bishop g4, and this is a pretty annoying pin. It's a very effective pin because there's already pressure on the d-pawn, and there's no good way to deal with it. So if we back up here, the only way for white to keep that opening advantage that he got in this position is to play the move h3. So it's a good example of, even in these open positions where you're thinking development, there are times when you just need to make these moves to control some squares and prevent some counterplay from your opponent. And that'll make a big difference in this game. Would have made. Okay, so bishop f4, now it's basically equal. With bishop g4, which he plays immediately, and I went on with d5, not finding some decent way to defend the pawn, and the engine didn't find anything either. And now, if he would just play knight d4, this is the way that he keeps this equality. He goes knight d4, and the chess engine gives this funny line: queen a4 check, bishop back to d7, queen d1 check. Bishop g4, going for the draw. The point is that if you play other moves, then black is going to trade out on f3 here and mess up the pawns, and black can complete his development very simply here, castling and getting the queen off the back rank to connect the rooks, and so black's a little bit better all of a sudden. So just like that, and so actually the engine wants to go for a draw here. So he didn't play knight d4 though. So, and that all came from my failing to play this h3 move and control the g4 square. But instead he played knight e5, and this is not so bad. Let's see, I could just take the knight here, and that leaves me with a bit of an edge. Now if I take with the bishop, he takes back. Then I have this queen d4 check, bishop d7, and now this knight is no problem. There's not pressure on the knight from his missing knight on d4, because I've traded that off. It went to e5 and I traded it off. So now the queen can just drop back to a3. It doesn't have to repeat, and it just keeps an eye out on this square, prevents black from castling, and white has some advantage here. So that would be best play. Let's see, I went bishop e2 is also okay. It keeps some edge for white. And queen d7 is a mistake though. Now I start to get some kind of significant advantage again. Problem is that it blocks the retreat squares of this bishop. So this bishop is kind of stranded out here. And the best way to exploit it is actually knight takes e5. Going for, with the knight takes e5, you're hitting the bishop, you're hitting the queen, and this forces it forces him basically to take the knight. And after he takes the knight, then white's a pawn up. So that's the clearest way to get an edge and exploit that queen d7 move. And the other point, after knight takes e5, he can't, well, he can throw in bishop takes bishop, but your knight can take his queen. He takes your queen. In that sequence, you grab the knight with check here, and you stay a piece up. So he can't go for the take and take. He can't go for the counterplay here with the taking of your bishop on e2. Okay, but I took with the bishop instead. Let's see, after queen d7, instead of taking with the knight, took with the bishop. This is still good for some advantage. He has nothing great to do with his bishop, so he trades it off for this knight. Like I said, it's kind of stranded out there. And then I don't have to take back right away. I play this intermediate move, bishop takes f6. And actually this is good. This gets the most out of the position because it forces him to damage his pawn structure. He's got to keep taking in order to maintain some kind of material balance, but at the end he's forced to grab this bishop. And now I have an edge. The material is even, but his pawn structure is kind of damaged over here. And I can start poking around, looking at those weak pawns right away. So he goes bishop d4 to defend, and so I come over here with queen d3. I had the idea of pushing getting out of the way of the f-pawn and putting some pressure on the bishop. Bishop drop back to e5, and now I kick it with f4. And once again, this bishop is without moves, so it's twice he's stranded his bishops in this game. Takes on c3, I take back. Oh, I took back with the queen. Either way, white keeps some kind of advantage here, so white's in good shape with the better pawn structure and the more active pieces. So queen e7 was played, bring my rook to c1. He's hitting this pawn, but I'm counterattacking the c pawn. So he castles queenside. That defends a c pawn with the queen and the king, but of course you've got to keep an eye on things like that. So I have to defend my e pawn now. I play rook to e1. He goes rook h to g8, piling up on my g pawn. And now I play e5. e5 actually gives the advantage away. Funny enough, it's just a little bit premature to push on. And what does the chess engine want to play here? Queen h3 check, king to b8, rook to c4. So it just wants to maneuver with the pieces. Queen to d7, queen to h5. Just poking around at these weaknesses. It's interesting that the engine didn't want to take that pawn. Maybe the queen runs into trouble on the h-file. And holding off on that central pawn push. So this pawn push here is just a little bit premature, and actually this position is about equal after this exchange, and would stay equal with pretty much any normal move, such as just continuing to take. But instead he plays this move, queen g5, which ought to lose immediately since he's left off protection of the of his c pawn there. So there's mate in 1 sitting on the board here, and it's my turn. Instead, well, I mean, there was mate in 1 sitting on the board over here too, and I defended that, and that was just a knee-jerk reaction in a blitz game. But of course, mating first does always good enough. You don't have to defend, or it's a good defense to a mate threat is to mate the other guy. Okay, but I played g3, and he continued to ignore the threat of mate, and so the second time I grabbed it. That's another thing you won't see in the U.S. Chess Championship. But it was a fun game. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.